Hi, it's WowBiz Nebraska. I'm Lynn Hinderaker, right here with my special guest, John Fullerton. We're going to have a great show today. We're going to be talking about a lot of things that are relevant to you and the things that are happening in your company as well as in your career. So thank you for joining us. If you'll stick closely with us, there's a lot to share. You'll be an enlightened viewer if you just hang in there for us for the next 25 or 30 minutes. John, thanks for joining me, sir. Tell me, what's your version of how do you think companies are adapting to this kind of weird era that we're a part of right now? Are they doing anything different? Are things looking different? Do they organize differently? What do you think?
Well, I think it's always important that companies and the leadership are always thinking about different ways that they can change up the game, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Because life's a game, but so is business.
Yeah, so it is.
You want to win,
Yeah.
and so you better be always thinking about your strategy and also planning and practicing and making sure that you have top performing stars on your team.
Yeah, I love all the analogies and the parallels. You know, it seems like I see this not just very recently, but for the last several years, the discussion about moving fluidly into the future, just moving faster. Now, we both have worked with large companies in our histories and so on, so we know that there's oftentimes some kind of a vertical. It's even unsaid. Everybody knows that this is how business goes. There's a boss, and then there's a middle management, and there's a bunch of people that run around on an hourly basis and try to get things done. And we all just accepted that. That's how it is. But there is actually kind of a movement away from that. And I don't know if it's because of the internet, the influence of that, or maybe it's Gen Z and the fact that they want to kind of operate differently. Do you see things changing at all in so far as companies being organized or doing things differently?
Well, especially with the advent of the new technologies that we've seen and the development of things, and also, of course, a lot of the social and psychological scientific research that's been done over the decades that have really, I think, brought us to this point now where we've got, first of all, a lot of autonomy for our people who are working with us and ourselves, and we've been empowered to do a lot of things that we possibly never would be able to have done on our own before. So now, especially with technology, that can really make one worker or one leader much more powerful just on their own, with a lot less dependence on having to have such a rigid structure where people are in certain kind of pigeonholed categories below them.
Exactly, and they need to get a sign off every time they move, take a move in one direction or another, and there's always a manager slightly above them that allows them to go in that direction or not, but it takes time. It always chews up time. And I think part of the initiative, of course, technology is great, but I think there's also a sense that the competition is catching up to us, or maybe even running faster than we are. They might have actually taken a leap with the most recent product introduction or whatever, and now all of a sudden we're kind of maybe a little bit behind, and what do we do? And so they're thinking to themselves, how to become more efficient? I'm sure that's the first thing. And also, by the way, it'd be nice if we could cut some costs at the same time. So maybe we just eliminate some people. That'll cut some costs and get them out of the way. Is that a reasonable option, or is that a good idea, or is that poorly thought through?
Well, I'd say that sometimes, you do have to cut some people from your team, but honestly, it's a much better approach to be able to figure out exactly how you have the right players in the right positions through the whole game, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So because we all have our own strengths and our own weaknesses.
Right.
And I think the importance of a great leader in business and life or on any kind of a team,
Sure.
it's be able to empower those around you and identify the strengths and weaknesses and how you can really take best advantage of the whole situation and help them to be able to be successful.
Sure, absolutely. These kinds of conversations are really helpful, of course. I think there are many companies that have these kinds of conversations maybe behind closed doors, frankly. How do we move forward? It seems like the people aren't happy down there. They're not keeping up with the work. we've got new ideas, but nobody seems to actually know how to implement. There's all these kinds of things that go on. They don't want everybody to know that they're concerned about them, but of course everybody does know. And so they're just kind of paddling and staying in place where, at least some people tell us, they now needs to be the time where we are really fluidly, I think is a one word that's being used, and move into the next era, the next chapter, whatever that is. And so I'm just wondering, is there some way to talk about, I'm talking about transition, obviously. Is there some way that we can talk about it in a way that everybody in the room gets it and doesn't feel excluded because I don't really know what that means, et cetera, et cetera? Can you think of any parallels or metaphors or just anything that can help us all get on the same page, and then we can go ahead and just move forward into the next chapter, so to speak?
Well, as you know, I used to run nonprofit organizations that benefited industries, and we would do strategic planning for them and come up with strategic business plans. And as well, for every business, no matter how small your business is, you really should be doing strategic planning. And that really takes a hard look at really what you're doing and trying to figure out how we can break all those things down.
Yeah.
All the things that we've always just done out of habit. We always do them because that's what we're comfortable doing. But to take a hard and critical look, and often really to bring in someone from outside is the most important thing, so that they can have an independent perspective and be able to help you to be more critical of yourself.
Yes.
And your systems and your team and everything else that you do together, because you got to have a strategic plan about how you're going to achieve things, so that you can do a SWOT analysis. You can look at what your strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats are.
Sure.
And to be able to know exactly what it is that needs improving. So that does take honesty and transparency.
Sure.
And that's something that really can hold back, especially larger organizations. And smaller organizations, more family type of oriented businesses and things, of course, yeah, it can be really hurtful for the morale and also just the entire esprit de corps for the business.
Sure.
If you're not honest about these issues. So also, just as you mentioned, they already know.
Yeah.
So it's best to be able to engage with them on a more equal type of level, on a human to human type of interpersonal level.
Or humanistic, I guess, with one word. You know, we've talked about this before, but I'd like to just pull this out and dust it off for a second. There's this analogy of sports and utilizing sports and the dynamics of sports. Everybody can understand sports. And the question is there some clear-cut analogy between looking at sports, watching it unfold, whatever it is, baseball, football, basketball in particular, and then asking ourselves, geez, you know, if we could just work together like these guys on the field are working together, maybe we could, continue to move forward and do a little bit better. So let's just attack that before we get past this segment in our show. The first, of course, would be baseball, and obviously that's kind of a slow, thoughtful game, frankly, right? And it's somewhat predictable. I mean, you go around the bases the same way every single time, right? And there's just just the notion of taking your time and stepping in the batter's box, all that stuff. And I think right now in the world that we're in, I mean, going back to business for a second, I don't think that's where we're at. I think we want it not be a baseball game or a baseball team. That's my first thought. I'm going to let you come back on this.
Well, that's true. I mean, baseball is very ritualistic.
Yes.
It's very structured. And yes, you do tend to go clockwise. You don't really want to go counterclockwise.
Wouldn't that be great?
Around that diamond, right?
Right.
So there's a lot, though, also of reliance on the big stars, the heavy hitters, right? And the all-stars. And sometimes too much of a reliance on that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's less of a team sport than my favorite sport.
Which is?
I
don't know, basketball? Football?
Basketball, yes. Yeah. Because, hey, I'm a Jayhawk, I got to be it.
Sure.
Admit to you.
Well, let's not skip over football. Football is dramatically different than baseball. And again, I think that speaks a little bit closer to what the businesses are striving to do right now. And that is to power through obstacles. just as we go through a blocking line or a tackler, a bunch of tacklers or whatever, somehow I see businesses intuitively do this, I think. Let's get together, everybody agree on it, come together on the values, what the goal is, everybody cool on this. You've got 1 week, go together through the obstacles, the competitive obstacles. I think that's a reasonable metaphor, and it's more hustle, it's more move, less than let's sit around and ponder and do what our guys did recently or in the past. Do you agree?
Yeah, and well, with football, of course, you've got to have very specialized people as well. I think more so than, I mean, everybody's got to be able to hit almost everybody on the baseball team. But, not everybody on the football team has to be a great passer.
Yes,
right?
That's
so, and then you got to have the big guys, the linemen, and you got to have the agile backs. And and I used to play the tight end myself. It's just you got to have somebody to catch the ball and move it down the field.
Right. Well, let's go on to this final sport here before we wrap up this first segment of our show on WowBiz Nebraska. And thank you so much for watching us here today. We are excited about helping you get through this next phase, this next chapter that just about everybody is involved in. 50 to 70%, by the way, it's an interesting statistic. 50 to 70% of all companies are now pondering change. They don't necessarily have it figured out, but they are embracing it and trying to figure out what the next thing to do is. That's a lot of companies. That's a large portion of every industry. Well, let's go on to basketball. Now, why would basketball theoretically be the ideal model for a business that wanted to succeed in this next chapter of the economy? What would it be? What is there about basketball that would actually work theoretically for us?
Well, I think that probably, if I was more of a sports expert and more of a business expert, I'd say that, well, certain businesses have a football model and certain ones are better off with a baseball model, and then others might follow something more similar to a basketball model.
That's right.
With a basketball, everybody has to be coordinated and moving around. When you're sitting there and guys are just kind of standing around, it doesn't work. They have to be, it's almost like a dance, right?
That's right.
I mean, they're just running around, they're running their place, they're running their drills. They got to practice a lot, and they all got to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've always got somebody who's making a lot of the big scores and stuff like that, but everybody has to be able to make it in the basket.
I think business has a lot in common with basketball, the hustle and the fluidity. So there's a general play, but then there are times when you have to make a decision to pivot or move to the basket when there's an opening, things like that, and trust your own instincts and spontaneity and so on. So I think that's really a cool analogy, and I would hope that all of you that are watching the show think about your business in terms of sports, and take advantage of them however they are, but probably look at baseball and basketball as well, thinking about fluidity and quick collaboration, and go for the hoop quickly and dunk it when you're there, right? That's right.
Absolutely. You got to be a team player, and we all got to keep the eyes on the prize.
Absolutely. Well, John, we're going to do our sponsorship right now, and we'll be right back, and we're going to talk about something very interesting, very visual, very metaphorical. So if you like right brain metaphors, stick with us, and we'll be right back. We got something to share with you. Okay? All right. Thanks. The promotional sponsor for WowBiz Nebraska today is Trans World Business Advisors here in the Omaha, Nebraska area. I'm going to take a second right here and chat with you about selling your business, how to do it, when it's right to do it, and who do you get to help you do it. It's a very complex process. Some people say, I can get it sold. It's a great company. We do well. We're profitable. Somebody will swoop in and take it, and it'll be wonderful, and I'll have a lot of money. Not typically the way it goes down. A lot of people have to struggle with it. It takes longer than they would expect. But most importantly is the complexity of the situation. You need to have an expert close to you and help you work through all these different considerations that have to come together, paperwork and so on, before you can successfully sell your company. That leads us to Trans World Business Advisors. Now, there are other business brokers in the Omaha area, but Trans World Business Advisors has an office here in Omaha, and they are the largest company in the United States of America in this particular business, which would be essentially selling a company. Now, A lot of entrepreneurs are eager to find out about this. There are a lot of people who want to get involved. And there are a lot of people out there that might be interested in purchasing your company. You may have put 10, 20, 30 years into it. You might actually be dragging your feet, frankly, and saying, I don't know if I really want to do it, and so on. I want to tell you something. Your grandchildren are waiting for you to get rid of this company so you can play with them and hang out with them in their early years, because there will be a time when they're gone, they're in college, and you're going to miss a tremendous opportunity. So remember what is waiting for you out there, and then get a professional who understands the technical side of it, the paperwork, the complexity, and so on. So this is a very important thing. Transworld Business Advisors is run by, it's a franchise operation, it's run by one John Fullerton here at 42nd and Center Street, kind of in the south and east area of Omaha, Nebraska. Very nice office, and he would welcome you. He can sit there and learn about your business, what's great about it, what's not so great, and so on, and he'll make a considered and an educated recommendation. And that is a key consideration. That's when you'll learn to sleep better, because until that happens, by the way, you're going to wake up every morning once you get going down this path, and you'll say, who's going to buy my company? Who's going to buy my company? I don't know what to do about this. Now, you're looking for an organization then who has a database of buyers or potential buyers, qualified buyers, hopefully. And who are you going to end up talking to or kind of move towards? Well, you're going to want to go where the choice is the greatest, the most deep well of buyers, potential buyers of your business. After you've gone a week or maybe a couple, 2-3 weeks, you're starting to wonder, where do I go? How do I get this done? We got to talk to some people that are sincere and able to buy my company. Nobody in the industry of business brokerage has more people, 350,000, by the way, potential buyers from all over the country. And of course, some of them are interested in Omaha, Nebraska, so don't discount them if they're not right here. But the bottom line is this: John Fullerton with Transworld Business Advisors has a deep well with credible buyers, and that's what matters, and that's what makes you feel better when you get up in the morning and say, I'm working with the people I can trust. They'll negotiate an appropriate price. They understand but most importantly, they know some buyers. By the way, let's shift the gear here real quick before I have to get back to our show. And that is, if you're looking for a career where you are actually independent, you're tired of politics, you want to do your thing, you want to make a real difference, you actually want to be somebody that people rely upon, think about contacting Transworld Business Advisors. John Fullerton will talk to you about what it takes to become a business broker, just like John Fullerton and all the other people across the entire country. This is a national franchise, ladies and gentlemen, and you'll be part of something strong that's going in a direction. They know what's up. They will train you, they will teach you, you'll feel confident, and you will make a real difference in people's lives as a business broker for Transworld Business Advisors. That's right. We'll be right back with an incredible segment right here on WowBiz Nebraska. You know, businesses are reorganizing the way they do things and the departments and how they all work together. And it's hard sometimes to try to explain how to do it. As we all know, for many years, there have been we'll call vertical business organization structures. John Fullerton, my friend here, has been part of many of those. You know what, it's the guys at the top and then more and more people there at the bottom, but with less power individually. And that's how businesses have been run for many, many years. But now, because of the web and the desire to move faster, we have to kind of accelerate our projects and keep up with the competition, which is never easy to do. So now we're looking at a different form, kind of as John and I were discussing, kind of a horizontal layout in terms of working with people who are contractors, people outside the company, each of them a specialist, and they pull together, they work together on a project, then they're off and they're interacting with other departments. John, do you see this kind of a interaction sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely. I know that, of course, we always envision a hierarchy, the kind of structure that we've always had for many centuries, really, throughout the development of the capitalistic system. And Such that, well, yeah, might have a lot of different layers of bureaucracy and middle managers and things like that.
Yes.
Which can sometimes lead to some inefficiencies. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that could be to great advantage. The more that we can kind of flatten the plateau, so to speak, or make it more of a horizontal integration.
Yeah, absolutely. That's been something that people are talking about and have been doing that kind of thing for a long time. And it also involves sometimes bringing in outsiders into the organization for a project or whatever. It could be a coach, a freelancer, a specialist, consultant, or whatever. Now, oftentimes these people that were just referred to are overlapping, and they do things together for a week or a month, and then they kind of split up and they go over here and they do something else with a different part of the company. I think that's kind of a cool thing. It becomes a little chaotic sometimes, but definitely I think can be very productive. We're using a metaphor here. Obviously, we have a beautiful fern, and it's very interesting. So I'm going to assume this. Now, take each of these, we'll call them stems for the time being, or fronds, whatever you'd like, but let's assume this is a company. This whole thing right here is a company, and every individual stem or frond, as they say, is a person, a human being inside the company, and they're working on their thing. Some of them are technical people, some of them are marketing people or creative people, some of them are in the distribution center, some of them are administrative types, financial types, and so on. Now, when the boss comes in, and of course the boss is kind of running the core down there, you can't really see that, but that would be where the energy comes from at the very core of this beautiful vase. And we'll just pretend here for a second that the boss says, we have to hit some new numbers. We got to actually generate more revenue, more profits. We have to be more efficient. And we might even want to launch at least one, maybe even 2 or 3 new products. Now, you all get together and figure out how to get that done, right? That can happen, absolutely.
Yeah, and they might just come in there with a pair of shears and say, hey, it's time to do the hatchet job, right?
Right.
But maybe it's better if we think of it instead in terms of how you might be able to repot or be able to splice or maybe even clone and find different ways that you can create new growth from the old branches.
Very true. Here's another option. You might be able to take this department over here, which has never done any business at all with this department over here. They're completely different groups of people on different product lines, and you force them to come together on a regular basis somehow and work together collectively and come up with maybe a new product or service for a new market segment, some new segment of an industry that is doing new things. So we need to come up with some products that fit that industry. That can happen all the time.
Yeah, you could weave things together so that then it could create a stronger structure that could rise and create growth.
Absolutely, John. You had said it better than I. And so I just can't get my hands off of this. I like to be able to pull these together because I have been I've been in some companies and this analogy is not that far away. What I like is this. Yes, there's the frond here or the stem, but there's these little, right? There's these little leaflets that hold multiple little leaves, shall we say. So I'd like to pretend, just for the heck of it, and say each one of these, let's say each one of them is an idea, a concept, something I dreamt up the other night that seemed incredibly possible, something we could do. And then the little tiny leaflets that are on it would be what I would call, these are the action steps. These are the things that I actually did just last week. I did 12 different things to kind of move this little frond or project forward. Again, I know some of you are out there going, I don't understand all this, but the bottom line is we get this coming together. There is, as Tom Peters said over 25, 30 years ago, human behavior and emotion play a larger part in business success than most of us initially understood. And it's happening now, it's happening everywhere. And by the way, Gen Z is very sensitive to this. They want to work in a company where they get to be on 2 or 3 task forces, 2 or 3 committees. They get to come up with ideas and people will actually pay attention to what they're thinking about. Say, well, hey, that would be cool. I know about an industry that could probably use that, and some people on the other side of the country, et cetera, et cetera. So I think and what I see here, first and foremost, is ideas and the energy that propels those ideas forward. I don't know if you've ever had a great idea, you fight your way up to the boss, the owner, you say, I got this, and we could do this. I thought about this. I thought it through, and it actually could happen. And the boss says, you got it. You got it. And loved the idea. And the guy walks out of there saying, this is a great company. They actually listen to me and other people like me, young people and so on. And he really cared. And he's a passionate person, and I respect him, and I'm going to follow him to the ends of the earth. That kind of thing doesn't happen often, but it does happen.
Absolutely. I've been very fortunate and had many experiences like that.
Yeah.
When I was running nonprofit organizations, of course, we had a lot of input from, of course, really we had hundreds of bosses. They were all of our members, and really our big bosses, our most important bosses, they were on the board of directors.
Yes.
And they were the officers of the organization.
Yeah.
And so we were constantly bringing in new ideas from them, but also we were welcome to bring our own ideas in too. And also, I always want to encourage that whenever I'm working with other people in any kind of a business situation.
Yeah.
It's good to be open to some new ideas, and you can't always do everything, but you should at least pay the courtesy and the respect to your employees to get their feedback, because oftentimes they know from the trenches really what's most important and what's really causing either failure or might really lead to the biggest success.
So true, so true. And it's so much wasted energy because we don't spend enough time thinking and talking to these people and finding out what's happening down on the line or whatever that is blocking our ability or desire to get more stuff out the door, make more money and give everybody some bonuses, and we could all be happy. But somehow we can't get a handle on what is really happening down there. And that is a real big problem. So I think what we're talking about together at the same time is a little more open, a willingness to try new things and listen to people that normally you wouldn't think of as idea people or whatever. But certainly to think outside the box, and certainly I think it's important to step back and look at kind of the trend of the whole world and see what the culture is happening. For instance, I just read some things about how middle-aged men are depressed and pulling back from the workforce, not working, going home, watching TV and struggling with their idea of who am I and what am I supposed to be doing? Well, that's a very interesting thing. We're talking about millions and millions of buyers there. And we're not communicating directly and empathetically necessarily with them. Women are stepping up and kind of taking over departments, at least at a mid-level and maybe higher. So, I mean, we're seeing some trends that oftentimes business people just kind of say, they're a bunch of idiots, who cares? But every one of them represents a purchasing customer. And I think in marketing and advertising, we're starting to figure out that instead of talking about the individual features and here's our great product and we do these cool things, instead talking to them at kind of a higher, more, how should I say it, a heart-rending area, It's really speaking to them about life in some broader terms and seeing if you can't cut through all the crap and get to what is really holding on. It's kind of a very psychological thing, but I think...
we all have a lot to learn from each other.
Yeah.
And of course, you know what they say, the women are smarter, and that's why they're in leadership positions, and they are also starting their own businesses. And many people of all sorts of backgrounds from before able to rise in our great society that we have and to be able to come from rags to riches, so to speak, be successful through the advent of new ideas, and for us to understand and try to work together and to be able to see the good and the bad and find the best in all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And realize that there is a way out. Even if you're sad or depressed or unhappy with what you're doing, there is a way forward. And you have resources at your fingertips that you probably don't even know. People are there for you. And if they aren't, by the way, you should leave the company or talk to HR and say, hey, I need somebody to say something real to me rather than just get back to work and get more done in a shorter period of time. All right, John Fullerton, thank you so much for coming in here at WowBiz Nebraska. Thanks for watching. I'm Lynn Hinderaker. We'll see you next time. What an out-of-sight show this is. We'll talk to you again absolutely next time. Bye-bye.